The foundation of this dynamic is laid early, often in the formative teenage years, where a young woman's perception of her own value begins to intertwine with the external validation she receives. This is not necessarily a conscious or malicious process, but rather a gradual conditioning by her social environment. The world, as she learns to navigate it, consistently reinforces a single, powerful narrative. Her desirability is her currency, and male attention is its primary measure. This education happens in countless subtle ways. It's in the constant stream of notifications, compliments on her photos, direct messages from admirers, and the easy, ever-present availability of approval from the men orbiting her, always waiting for a chance to be noticed. This attention isn't just flattering, it becomes the bedrock of her confidence, the mirror through which she sees her own beauty and power. Reflected back at her, this system operates on a clear and uncompromising rulebook. A man proves his interest and, by extension, his worth, through relentless pursuit. He demonstrates his commitment by sacrificing his time, his energy, and even a degree of his own dignity, all for the hope of gaining her favor. In this economy, her beauty is treated as a supreme asset, a force potent enough to command sacrifices and hold a man's entire world hostage. Most men, driven by attraction and a deep-seated fear of loss, willingly pay this ransom. They rush to respond to her messages, they perform to impress, and they offer validation freely, all to secure her presence. This constant chase doesn't just make her feel desired, it makes her feel secure in her position of power. It validates the core lesson she has internalized, that her looks and charm are sufficient to control the dynamics of any interaction with a man. This is the illusion she has been fed, and it is the comfortable, predictable reality that every chasing man helps her maintain. The entrance of a man who refuses to participate in this established economy of pursuit is nothing short of a system shock. He operates on a different set of principles, and his behavior is so foreign to her conditioned experience that it doesn't just confuse her. It actively dismantles the very framework of her perceived power, where other men bend and contort themselves. To gain a sliver of her approval, this man remains upright, composed within his own sense of self. He doesn't rush to reply to texts, not as a game, but because his time is allocated to his own priorities. He doesn't offer hollow compliments or performative gestures, because his validation is not a currency he spends freely to purchase her attention. His calm is not aloofness. It is the quiet confidence of a man whose world is already full, and whose sense of worth is generated internally, not extracted from her reactions. This creates a profound cognitive dissonance within her. The entire script she has relied upon is suddenly useless. The predictable dance where she leads and a man follows is halted. Her first reaction is often a scramble to categorize this anomaly. Is his lack of pursuit an insult, a silent rejection of her value? Or is it an intriguing challenge, a puzzle to be solved? Perhaps it is something more subconsciously threatening, a direct challenge to the rules that have governed her romantic life. This man, simply by standing still in his own power, forces her to confront a brutal and unfamiliar reality. Her beauty, which she has been taught is a master key, does not unlock his world. Her charm does not guarantee his devotion. The tools that have worked on every other manna, teasing comment, a moment of calculated warmth, a display of indifference fall flat against his unshakable composure. The most disarming effect is the void he creates. She is accustomed to a constant hum of validation, a nourishing stream of attention that feeds her ego. His silence, his lack of chase, creates a vacuum where that noise used to be. In that sudden quiet, she is left alone with a question she rarely has to ask: what is her value absent the desperate pursuit of men? He becomes a mirror reflecting not what she has been told she is, but what she actually is when the audience stops applauding. This is an infinitely more powerful question than any compliment could ever pose. A compliment can be dismissed or collected, but this silent challenge lingers. It forces her to step out of her passive role as the prize and into the unfamiliar territory of having to genuinely engage, to wonder, and to invest. He shatters the illusion not by arguing with it, but by simply living as if it never existed in the first place. His very existence proves that her looks alone are not enough to control a man who knows his own name, his mission, and his inherent worth. When confronted with this unsettling shift in dynamics, her response is rarely one of immediate acceptance. Instead, she instinctively reaches for a well-worn playbook of behaviors designed to restore the familiar balance of power, to provoke the chase she has come to expect and relies upon. This is not a calculated conspiracy, but a series of ingrained reactions tested and refined through years of reinforcement. The first and most common tactic is provocation. She may deploy subtle tests, like mentioning another man's interest in a casual conversation. Closely watching for a flicker of jealousy or defensiveness, she might post more attention-seeking content online, a bid to reignite the competitive fire she believes should drive you. Sarcastic comments or playful digs are also tools. It's aimed at piercing your calm exterior to spark any reaction that would signal you are still playing the game on her terms. If provocation fails, to yield the desired response, the strategy often escalates to artificial distance. This is the classic pullback, a sudden coldness or claims of being overwhelmingly busy. It's a calculated move rooted in the principle of scarcity, designed to trigger a fear of loss. The intended effect is to make you panic, to question your own value, and to come running back with renewed fervor to prove your interest and reclaim her attention. It's a power play that works flawlessly on men who derive their validation from her presence. However, when met with genuine indifference, when you acknowledge her distance and continue living your life with undisturbed focus, the strategy backfires spectacularly. The silence she intended for you to feel boomerangs back, and she is left alone with the unsettling question of why her absence doesn't seem to affect you. Another frequent maneuver is the performance of fake indifference. She will attempt to mimic your calm, posting highlights of a life seemingly unbothered and utterly complete without you. She might speak dismissively of you to mutual friends, pretending your presence is irrelevant. Yet this performance is inherently fragile. True indifference is quiet and requires no audience. Her very need to perform it reveals the opposite. It is a mask worn to conceal the sting of your lack of pursuit. It's a desperate attempt to reclaim a sense of dignity and control by pretending she never valued it in the first place. Finally, when these tactics falter, she may pivot abruptly to overcompensating kindness. Out of the blue, she becomes sweet, attentive, and nostalgic, sending checking-in messages or fondly recalling old memories. This should not be mistaken for genuine affection or a change of heart. It is strategic warmth, another form of bait designed to lure you back into a dynamic where she holds the upper hand, hoping that kindness will succeed where coldness failed. The failure of her tactics signals a critical juncture, moving the conflict from a strategic game to a profound internal crisis. When her provocations, distance, and performances elicit no reaction, the very framework of her understanding begins to fracture. This is where her behavior often devolves from strategic to chaotic, a visible symptom of an unraveling ego. One day she may attempt to guilt-trip you, accusing you of being cold or having changed, a final effort to manipulate you into resuming your former role through obligation. The next, she might swing to flattery, nostalgically recalling your qualities, hoping to lure you back with praise. This erratic swing between warmth and coldness is not a calculated strategy, but a sign of desperation. Her emotional system, built on the predictable cause and effect of male pursuit, is short-circuiting because the old rules no longer apply, leaving her without a script to follow. This internal chaos frequently spirals into a quiet obsession. The woman who once confidently believed she could summon your attention with a single text now finds herself meticulously analyzing your digital footprint. She checks your social media more than her own, scrutinizing follows, likes, and comments for clues to your inner world. She pays acute attention to who you are with and what you are doing, measuring her own life against the progress and happiness you project without her. This obsessive cycle is rarely about love or genuine connection. It is fundamentally about power. She is not obsessed with you, but with the fact of her own irrelevance to you. The man she believed was orbiting her planet has revealed himself to be the center of his own universe. And this realization is a devastating blow to her pride. Nothing is more corrosive to a conditioned sense of value than the realization that one was once desired and is now merely ignored. You have starved her ego of its essential fuel, your validation. And the resulting hunger is all-consuming. This painful absence forces a moment of truth, crossroads that reveals her authentic nature. Faced with the undeniable reality of your indifference, she has only two viable paths. The first is to step up, to genuinely self-reflect, adjust her behavior, and begin to invest in the dynamic without the guarantee of control. This requires a humility she may not possess, but it is the only path toward a balanced partnership. The second option is to leave. She may disengage entirely, retreating back to the familiar territory of men who willingly provide the easy validation and predictable chase she knows how to manipulate. While this departure might initially feel like a rejection, it is, in truth, a clarifying filter. Her choice reveals that what she truly sought was not a partner, but a subject, not a relationship of mutual respect, but a dynamic of control and validation. Her exit is not your loss, but your liberation, proving that the power you withheld was never yours to give. It was only ever yours to reclaim. The man who refuses to chase embodies a quiet revolution against a deeply ingrained cultural script. From fairy tales to blockbuster films and social media dynamics, the narrative is relentlessly consistent. A man proves his worth and desire through grand gestures, relentless pursuit, and sacrificing his own dignity to win the favor of a woman. She has been conditioned to see this not just as flattering, but as her natural right, a default setting of the universe. By standing firm in his own frame, this man does more than simply reject her. He rejects the entire premise of this narrative. He becomes a living anomaly, and in doing so, exposes a fragile truth she works hard to avoid, that the power derived from male attention is contingent and temporary. Without the constant pursuit of others, the architecture of her self-worth faces a stress test it was never designed to withstand. This is why she might label him arrogant or cold. It is a defensive reaction to the profound discomfort of being exposed. He proves the one thing she fears most, that her beauty alone is insufficient to control a man who possesses a deeper sense of purpose and self-worth. The ultimate irony lies in the lasting impression he leaves. While she may openly resent him in the moment, he becomes the standard she unconsciously measures others against. The men who chase, who worship, and who provide easy validation eventually blur into a predictable, replaceable monochrome. They validate her, but inspire nothing. But the man who remained unmoved, who was more interested in his own mission than in her approval, etches himself into her memory. He becomes unforgettable, not for what he gave her, but for what he withheld. His desperate need. This demonstrates a core paradox. Indifference, wielded correctly, is far more powerful and enduring than desire. It lingers in the mind long after flattery has been forgotten. This transformation is not merely about changing her perception. It is about a fundamental reclamation of self. The exhausting cycle of chasing drains a man's energy, clouds his focus, and keeps him in a reactive state, forever waiting for her next cue. When he steps off this treadmill, he reclaims his time, his focus, and, most importantly, his peace. He ceases to be a satellite orbiting her world and recenters himself as the sun of his own solar system. This shift is palpable. He channels his energy into his purpose, his growth, and his genuine passions. And it is this very commitment to building a meaningful life, independent of her validation, that becomes his greatest source of magnetism. Women are drawn not to the man who begs to be chosen, but to the man who is already complete. This culminates in a profound shift in the balance of power. The man who doesn't chase stops being a participant in her game, and instead becomes the arbiter of his own reality. He transitions from the man who proves his worth to the man whose worth is evident. He is no longer the suitor hoping to be selected. He is the selector, carefully deciding who deserves a place in the kingdom he has built. This is the final, unassailable truth she must confront. A man who does not chase is a man who cannot be controlled. He may frustrate her, challenge her and intimidate her. But he also commands a respect that no amount of supplication can ever buy. This respect is the non-negotiable foundation for any genuine attraction. Once this frame is embodied, the fear of loss evaporates. For the man who is already free, a woman's departure is not a catastrophe, but a natural filtering process. He understands that his value is not determined by her presence or absence, but by the integrity with which he lives his own life. He is, and will always be, the author of his own worth.